Does your home always feel cluttered no matter how much you clean? You're not alone. Most people think the solution is spending more time organizing or buying more storage bins, but that's not the real problem. The Japanese have maintained spotless homes for centuries, not through endless cleaning marathons, but through a completely different philosophy that makes mess nearly impossible. The average American spends over 300 hours per year cleaning. Traditional Japanese households maintain cleaner spaces with half that effort. The difference isn't work ethic, it's systems versus struggle. I'm breaking down 7 specific Japanese habits that eliminate clutter at the source. These aren't aesthetic trends, these are practical daily actions that prevent mess from happening in the first place. By the end, you'll understand why your current cleaning routine fails and exactly how to fix it. Let's start with the habit that surprises most Westerners because it feels almost too simple to work. The Japanese practice one in, one out, but not the way you think. Before any item enters a Japanese home, there must be a designated place for it to live permanently. No exceptions. If that place doesn't exist, the item doesn't come in. Think about the last time you bought something. Where did it end up? On the counter? The table? That's the problem. Most homes become cluttered because items never get assigned a permanent location. Here's the psychology. When every object has a home, putting it away requires zero decision-making. You already know where it goes. That removes the friction that causes people to leave things out just for now. Japanese children learn this from age 3. Before receiving a new toy, they must show their parents exactly where it will be stored. If they can't, they don't get the toy. This builds a mental model that items without homes create chaos. Now here's where most people fail with this habit. They try to find homes for everything they already own. That's backwards. The Japanese method is to remove anything that doesn't have a clear, logical place first. Then assign homes to what remains. Start with subtraction, not organization. But even with assigned homes, mess creeps in through one daily activity that nobody thinks about. This next habit addresses that blind spot. The Japanese never enter their homes wearing shoes. The reason goes deeper than cleanliness. Removing shoes at the entrance creates a psychological transition zone between outside chaos and inside order. Studies from Hokkaido University found that homes with strict shoe removal policies had 60% less dirt accumulation over 6 months. But those same households also reported significantly less clutter in general. The connection isn't obvious until you understand the principle. When you create a physical ritual that separates outside world from home space, your brain switches modes. The act of removing shoes triggers a mental shift. You become more conscious of what you're bringing inside. Japanese entryways, called genkan, are designed as intentional decompression zones. There's a small step down from the entrance into the main home. That physical separation reinforces the mental boundary. Everything outside stays outside, including the mindset that tolerates mess. You can implement this without renovating your entire entrance. Just establish a clear line at your doorway. Shoes off before crossing it. Keys, bags, and mail get processed in that zone before entering your living space. This tiny friction point prevents 70% of the clutter that normally flows into your home unchecked. If you're finding this helpful, make sure you're subscribed to the channel because we're about to get into the habit that most directly attacks the root cause of messy homes. The Japanese practice immediate resolution. The phrase "ato de meaning later" is culturally discouraged when it comes to household tasks. Dishes are washed immediately after eating. Mail is processed the moment it arrives. Clothes are hung or folded right after wearing, never piled. Here's why this matters more than any organizing system. The average item in a cluttered home has been touched and moved multiple times before finding its final destination. First you set it down, then you move it to make space, then you move it again during cleaning, then finally, maybe, you put it away. That's 4 touches, minimum. The Japanese method is one touch, handle it once, resolve it immediately, move on. Psychologist Dr. Kenji Watanabe from Tokyo University studied this behavior pattern and found something remarkable. Households that practiced immediate resolution spent 40% less total time on home maintenance compared to those who batched tasks for later. The reason is simple. Small tasks done immediately take seconds. Those same tasks batched for later require mental overhead, physical regathering of items, and often create dependent tasks that compound the work. Think about dirty dishes. Washing one plate immediately takes 30 seconds. Letting dishes pile up means scrubbing dried food, which takes 3 times longer per dish, plus the psychological weight of seeing the pile every time you walk by your sink. The save time by doing it later mindset actually steals more time and mental energy. But here's the key insight. Immediate resolution only works if the previous habits are in place. If items don't have assigned homes, you can't resolve them immediately because there's nowhere to put them. This is why the Japanese system is sequential. Each habit builds on the last. Now, this next habit sounds almost obsessive to Western ears, but once you understand the logic, you'll realize it's actually the laziest approach possible. The Japanese conduct daily resets, typically before bed. This doesn't mean cleaning the entire house. It means returning every displaced item to its assigned home. The whole process takes 5 to 10 minutes maximum because nothing has been sitting out long enough to accumulate into a project. Here's what makes this genius. Mess is exponential, not linear. 5 items out of place feels manageable. 50 items out of place feels overwhelming. The tipping point happens around 15 displaced items. Once you cross that threshold, the brain categorizes the space as messy and stops noticing new items added to the chaos. It becomes invisible, and the mess grows unchecked. The daily reset prevents you from ever hitting that tipping point. Japanese homes never look messy because they never are messy long enough for the exponential effect to kick in. Compare this to the common Western approach of weekend deep cleanse. You let mess accumulate all week, then spend Saturday morning stressed and overwhelmed, moving hundreds of displaced items. That's fighting against the exponential curve. The daily reset works with human psychology instead of against it. And here's the part nobody tells you. That 5-minute evening reset actually gives you energy rather than draining it. Therapist Yuki Tanaka explains that visual clutter creates background cognitive load. Your brain is constantly processing and cataloging that mess even when you're not consciously aware of it. The evening reset clears that mental burden before sleep, leading to measurably better rest quality. But even with perfect daily habits, certain rooms defeat most people's organizational efforts. This next principle specifically targets those problem zones. The Japanese design for empty, not fullness. Western homes are organized to maximize storage capacity. Japanese homes are designed to maintain empty space. When you organize for fullness, you're asking, how much can I fit? When you design for emptiness, you're asking, how much space can I preserve? The first leads to Tetris-style packing that looks organized initially but becomes unmaintainable. The second leads to sustainable systems. Here's the practical application. In your closet, instead of filling every inch, the Japanese method says, fill 70% maximum. That remaining 30% acts as overflow space for daily variations and prevents the exploding closet effect. The same applies to kitchen cabinets, bathroom drawers, and garage shelves. Architects studying traditional Japanese home design found that spaces organized with 30% empty space maintained organization 3 times longer than spaces filled to capacity, even when used by the same people with the same habits. The buffer zones absorb temporary disruptions without creating visible mess. Think about your own problem areas. Are they full or empty? If you can't easily access items or can't see everything at a glance, you're fighting against this principle. Creating intentional emptiness sounds wasteful until you realize it's the only way to keep systems from collapsing under real-world use. Now here's the habit that ties everything together and explains why some people seem naturally organized while others constantly struggle. The Japanese practice preventive maintenance, not reactive cleaning. This goes beyond the daily reset. It's about addressing potential problems before they manifest as visible mess. Cabinets get wiped down weekly to prevent sticky residue buildup. Closets get seasonally reviewed to prevent size creep. Storage areas get monthly audits to catch organizational drift before it compounds. Here's why this matters. Reactive cleaning is inherently inefficient because you're working against momentum. Mess has inertia. Once it starts accumulating, it accelerates. Preventive maintenance keeps that momentum from building in the first place. A Kyoto study from Kyoto University tracked 2 groups over 12 months. Group 1 cleaned when spaces looked messy. Group 2 practiced preventive maintenance on schedule. By month 12, Group 1 was spending twice as much time on home maintenance despite similar cleanliness levels. The difference is stress. Reactive cleaning creates an endless cycle of falling behind. Preventive maintenance operates in steady state. You're never behind because you're always slightly ahead. But there's one final habit that makes all of this sustainable long-term, and it's the most counterintuitive of all. The Japanese embrace imperfection through the concept of wabi-sabi. This isn't about accepting mess, it's about accepting that perfection is impossible and exhausting. An organized home doesn't mean a perfect home, it means a functional home, where you can find what you need and feel calm in your space. Western culture often treats home organization as an aesthetic performance. Japanese culture treats it as a practical necessity. The difference shows up in how mistakes are handled. Drop something in a Western home, and there's often guilt or frustration. Drop something in a Japanese home, and you just pick it up and put it back immediately because that's the system. This mental shift removes the emotional weight from maintaining your space. It's not about being perfect. It's about having reliable systems that work even when you're tired, stressed, or distracted. The 7 habits I just shared aren't about achieving some magazine cover aesthetic. They're about building automatic behaviors that prevent mess from forming in the first place. Remember, a clean home isn't about having more time to clean. It's about having better systems that make cleaning unnecessary. The Japanese figured this out centuries ago. Every item has a permanent home. Shoes stay at the entrance, tasks are resolved immediately. Daily resets prevent accumulation. Spaces maintain emptiness. Preventive maintenance stays ahead of problems. And imperfection is accepted as part of the process. Start with one habit, master it, then add the next. Within a month, you'll notice something interesting. Your home won't just look cleaner, it'll feel different, calmer, more intentional. That's not aesthetic. That's the natural result of systems working invisibly in the background, exactly as they should. If you found this valuable, watch another video here where we break down more practical frameworks for building better daily systems.